Hey everyone, DK here with Adventures in Dirt. And hey, there's some breaking news in the saga that is Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. I'm telling you, the finder of the Forrest Fenn treasure, you've heard me talk about him here on the channel before. Well, he's finally come forward and identified himself. His name is Jack Stueff. He's a 32-year-old med student. He won't release any more information than that. The last time I spoke with you about the Forrest Fenn treasure, it's when he came forward and posted an article on medium.com under the heading of the finder. Well, now he's gone ahead and he's changed that over to his name, Jack Stueff, and released this statement. Let's head on over there and check out this statement on medium.com by the finder, Jack Stueff. Here we go. This used to be an account by the finder, and now he's come out and created one as Jack Stueff, and he comes out talking about why he released his identity. It says, "My name is Jack Stueff, and I'm the finder of the Forrest Fenn treasure. I searched for it for 2 years, and on June 6th of this year, I retrieved the treasure from the place I found it in Wyoming. The same place Forrest hid it 10 years ago. I now own the treasure chest. For the past 6 months, I've remained anonymous, not because I have anything to hide, but because Forrest and his family endured stalkers, death threats, home invasions, frivolous lawsuits, and potential kidnapping, and all at the hands of people with delusions related to his treasure. I don't want things like that to happen to me and my family. The U.S. District Court of New Mexico has ruled that Forrest's estate must provide some of my personal information to a woman I do not know and with whom I have never communicated, who has brought a meritless lawsuit against me. This would make my name a matter of public record, so I chose to come forward today." He says, "After I brought the treasure down from Wyoming to Santa Fe to Forrest, I put it in a vault, not Forrest's, at a secure location in New Mexico, and it will remain there until I sell it." So this is a statement from Jack Stueff, the finder of the Forrest Fenn treasure chest. He goes on to talk about his thoughts about why he wanted to remain anonymous and all this stuff. And it's just the plain simple truth of the lawsuit filed by Barbara Anderson, a Chicago lawyer who filed a lawsuit naming the unnamed finder of the Forrest Fenn treasure chest, claiming that he had hacked her emails and hacked her computer and stole her idea and her solution, which I believe was supposed to be in New Mexico, according to her solution, and that he somehow went out and grabbed the treasure. That's the allegation, at least. And she wants a judge to force him to turn it over, that she had the correct solve. And I'm paraphrasing a lot. I haven't read all the words of the entire litigation, of course, but that's sort of the gist of it, right? So she's suing in multiple court cases. So since a judge has not gone ahead and thrown this lawsuit out as frivolous and gone ahead and taken it to the next step, Jack Stueff thought that, Forrest's family would have to step in and be involved in this lawsuit and have his name released anyways. So he preempted it by releasing his name today, just 11 hours ago. And what that will allow is that will allow Barbara Anderson to go ahead and refile her lawsuit and strike up the case directly with him. And it'll just be up to the attorneys and the judge as to whether they're going to let that go forward or not. The finder, Jack Stueff, goes on to say that when he found the treasure, it ended the hopes of many people around the world who wanted to one day find it. And he understands that both the disappointment and disbelief many are experiencing and do not take personally the vitriolic, he's definitely a writer, the vitriolic comments made about me or the conspiracy theories that some seem to find comfort. But to be clear, I am not and was never employed by Forrest, nor did he pick me in any way to retrieve the treasure. I was a stranger to him and found the treasure as he designed it to be found. He goes on to say, "I do not care to spend my time disputing anyone's convictions about where the treasure was. Everyone is entitled to their opinion in the United States of America, but when they sue me, they cross a line. This is an abuse of the court system. I am the legitimate finder and owner of the treasure, and no person has any remotely valid claim against me. In the case in New Mexico, many bizarre, false, baseless, and defamatory allegations have been made against me. I have never hacked or stalked the plaintiff or any person, nor have I been charged with or arrested for any crime in my life. And I certainly never searched for the treasure in New Mexico. I will take appropriate legal action against anyone who makes baseless claims against me." I am aware some people hope this frivolous lawsuit will reveal that the clues in the poem meant and where the treasure was located, but I feel a responsibility to keep that a secret. So he still intends on keeping the location of this treasure chest a secret. He says, I have never revealed where I searched for and found the chest to any person other than some whose jobs requires them to know that information and keep it confidential, and I never plan to. And I'm sure he's talking about his attorneys probably need to know where it was found so they can fight these frivolous lawsuits and hopefully try to keep that information confidential. That's going to be the challenge, right? That's going to be the challenge. The challenge is going to be, how do they keep this secret in a court of law? Is Barbara Anderson in New Mexico going to try to force his hand in revealing the location? And are his attorneys going to be able to keep that confidential? It's probably going to be up to the judge. And I'm hoping that the judge isn't seeing this as a bunch of attention being levied on his little court system there and wanting to make this into a bigger case than it really needs to be. That's just my opinion. But let's go on and see what the finder says about why he doesn't want to reveal the location. He says, if I were to reveal where the treasure was, the natural wonder of place that Forrest held so dear will be destroyed by people seeking treasure they hope I dropped on my way out of Forrest or on his way in. Adding to the risk is the fact that Forrest never wrote up an inventory of what was in the chest at the time he secreted it, so I can't prove to anyone that no item is missing from the chest. 2 items that Forrest had in the past said were in the chest were not when I found it. How about that? That's a new piece of information. The small gold frog on a necklace and the Spanish emerald ring found at San Lazaro, Forrest was able to locate the small frog in his vault, and it was given to me after my find. But he had no idea what happened to the emerald ring. So that's new information we haven't heard yet, is that 2 items that Forrest previously had said were in the chest actually weren't. So that's new information. And it just goes to show that chest sat on a shelf for a while, and he probably never inventoried it, and he forgot completely what was in there 100%. So, but it looks like Forrest did give him the frog afterwards, but not the emerald ring. Couldn't find the emerald ring. He goes on to say, in addition to probable damage to the site, there is the possibility of danger to human lives. Despite Forrest's effort to try and help people stay safe, many people searched in impossibly dangerous locations and prohibitive winter weather conditions. Some lucky ones, after endangering emergency workers, were rescued, but others died. Getting to the wilderness location where the chest was is not dangerous in the conventional sense of the word, but it very quickly can be when people do not take basic precautions or go out in the wrong conditions. It is not an appropriate place to become a tourist attraction. You know, a lot of people thought that this will never be released because it really just doesn't want people to go in to trample the area, pilgriming to the area. And you know what? If you're like me, if you're a searcher, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to fall on 2 sides of the fence. Either you're going to say, yeah, I would love to go out there and try to see that spot. Or at least you would like to say, I know the deciphering of the poem and how it led me to that exact spot. I think you'd get all kinds of people heading out there to go take a look at the spot where the treasure chest was hidden. People have already taken trips out to areas they thought the chest was hidden. I think about some people here on the YouTube channels that have gotten together and gone out when they have learned information that they deemed was the location of the treasure chest. They immediately went out to go find the location. And if you think they would do it, being who they are and how connected to the chase they were, how about the people that weren't as connected, that didn't respect it as much, would probably go out there as well and take pictures. And I'm sure that they wouldn't try to destroy it, but you're talking about 30, 40,000 people eventually maybe wanting to head out there over the next 10 years or so. I don't know, but I get it. I totally understand where he's coming from. Now, it kills me because we all want to know the answer to the riddle of the poem. We all want to know the location of the treasure. And like I said, maybe the lawsuit will reveal that if they're not successful in keeping that information under wraps. We'll have to wait and see. As for Jack Stueff, here's what he has to say. I understand that searchers have many questions for me, and I will take some time to answer them. As I start, for those who are interested in my perspective on the chase, I posted a rambling over intellectualized video to YouTube in 2019 with some of my thoughts before I found the treasure. Outside Magazine also has a story out today with some more information from me. I should be clear up front, about boundaries with other searchers. As far as him wanting other contact with searchers, here's what he has to say about that. Forrest enjoyed meeting people and conversing with many searchers over the years, but that's not something I'm looking for. I do not wish to receive any visits to my home or phone calls or text messages from searchers. I have acquainted myself with local laws regarding stalking and will not hesitate to call the police if someone comes to my door. If searchers feel compelled to contact me, they can email me at jack853198834@gmail.com. But keep in mind, I'm not likely to read most of the messages or respond to them. And to close, he says there are some positive consequences to me being outed as the finder, and I hope knowing I am the real person is a solace to some searchers still grieving the conclusion of the chase. I am optimistic that this experience will still be a positive chapter in my life. So today, as I read up about Jack Stu, I found out he actually used to be a writer. He used to be a writer for BuzzFeed and for many other publications. So, his previous writing about A Farewell to Forrest, A Remembrance of Forrest Fenn, on medium.com, when he posted that, many of us communicated after I posted my video on that. The writing was pretty obvious that it came from some type of writer, right? It was penned very well. It led a lot of people to believe that maybe it was Forrest's author friend that penned that. And a lot of suspicions came up with that because it was so obviously written by a good writer. And now we know why. Jack Stuoff is a writer. Like I said, he wrote for BuzzFeed and a few other publications. The Onion, he wrote for The Onion. And so that makes a lot of sense now that we know this. I was able to go over and check out that article over on Outside Magazine, and let's head on over there now. So here is Outside Magazine's article about the Jack Stuoff. It turns out the article's author here at Outside Magazine had some communication with Jack Stuoff, but never knew his name, had reached out to him after he wrote the article on the medium.com and actually got a response from him, and they started a long communication. So I'm not going to read you this whole article, but I do encourage you to head over here to the outsideonline.com and read this article about the man who found Forrest Fenn's treasure. It's a great article written very well by Daniel Barbarisi. And it just kind of goes into his information. It kind of goes into his story of how he contacted Jack Stuoff and how they've been communicating back and forth for the past few months about finding the treasure, and also why he didn't want to come out and reveal his name. But since he decided that he was going to come out, he went ahead and allowed him to produce this article. So it's a great article. It just talks all about, and it starts off with a great photo of Jack Stuoff and Forrest Fenn looking at the treasure. I believe this photo is probably cropped for the ones we saw earlier of Forrest kind of checking out. It's actually a little bit of different angle of Forrest looking at different things, but it's the first time we've seen Jack Stuoff in a photo. That is Jack Stuoff. I've looked him up. I was able to find his Twitter feed, Jack Stuoff's Twitter feed. Turns out that he talked about Mike McDonald, 89, who had put out a challenge saying that if anybody's able to prove that they were the finder, he'd pay him $10,000. Looks like Jack Stuoff put out a tweet that said, hey, it's now been paid out on this. He's been paid out on this, and he's proven it to this guy. And yeah, so there you go. There's Jack Stuoff's Twitter feed if you want to go check that out. But back to the Outside Magazine article. Like I said, I'm not going to read all this, but it goes through exactly what was going on. It mimics a lot of what was in the Medium article I just read you. So I do encourage you to head on over here to Outside Online and read this great article. It goes into much deeper information about who Jack is and kind of some of his past. He's been controversial in some of his writing. He's been relieved of his duties at some posts. He used to freelance for BuzzFeed, and he got in some trouble there. And nowadays he says, he just doesn't even think about that. That is so long ago, and it was really just a non-event, but enough to kind of get him relieved or, have him leave his post. But it's interesting. You get to know a little bit more about this guy that found Forrest Fenn's treasure. So I encourage you to head on over here to outsideonline.com and read this article. It's a good one. Yeah, so that's it. Just a quick video to let you know that the finder has been named. He's come forward, and now we can all follow the lawsuit between him and Barbara Anderson and see how that's going to progress. Personal note, I hope that it gets thrown out. I hope that no one is successful and able to kind of challenge this guy on certain things. I know a lot of you are still skeptical. A lot of people believing in this conspiracy that this was never hidden to begin with. And I respect all your opinions out there. I've tried to respond to many of you as I can on my comments of the videos previously, but just know that my opinion, I'm on the side of the fence that says I believe this was a real treasure. I believe it was found by this gentleman. I believe it is Jack Stewart. I am buying it hook, line, and sinker. So if you don't believe the same things as me, I encourage you to leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to engage in conversation with you. And for those of you who'd like to know more of my thoughts on the Forrest Fenn treasure, not only was I a searcher for 4 to 5 years, but I also put out a number of videos about it. The video on the screen right now is the exact moment of when I found out about the Forrest Fenn treasure had been found, and I give you some of my thoughts on there. If you'd like to go check it out, please do. I'm DK with Adventures in Dirt. I'll see you next time.